The Secretary will read the second order.
Debate on Vote 12, Economic Development and Tourism, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
I see Minister Winde.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Obviously my morning. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Cabinet colleagues, Premier, DG and heads of department, Mr. Solly Fourie and the team at Economic Development and Tourism, guests up in the gallery and residents of this province. Today marks the 7th year that I'm standing before you to speak about our economy. I've just tabled the 2016-17 budget for the Department of Agriculture, where we spoke about the gains we have made in that sector. This good news is not limited to agriculture, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Western Cape's economy is outperforming every other region in South Africa. Overall, we are the fastest job-creating province in the country. In 2015, employment growth in the Western Cape was double that of National and Gauteng. We now have the lowest unemployment rate in South Africa. This is in part due to the choices we have made as a government to place special attention on those areas of our economy in which we can make the biggest difference and which we can accelerate job creation and growth. It's because we've committed to delivering an open, accessible and responsive government. It's also thanks to the strong and sustained optimism from the private sector. Business confidence here is higher than the national average, and we are continuing to see stronger investment from the private sector into key areas. Speaker, that business confidence is not just higher, the business confidence is getting liftoff. Every single time it is rated, we are seeing that gap widen as business confidence in this region gets more confident as opposed to what's happening on a reduction in the rest of the country. We also know that the Western Cape has unique advantages as a region. In academia, we are home to some of South Africa's best universities. In actual fact, to Africa's best universities, all of which are producing students ready to take up employment and to take our economy forward. Entrepreneurs in this province take risks to grow the economy through their efforts. They employ over 500,000 people in the Western Cape. Last year, we learned that the majority of this country's startups are based here, a trend which has seen the Western Cape becoming known as the Silicon Cape or the digital gateway to Africa. This is because the Western Cape startups have a voice in the economy, a voice which this government is eager to listen to. While we are making significant progress, a lot more needs to be done. There are still 571,000 unemployed people in this province, using the narrow definition of unemployment. This figure rises to 673,000 when using the expanded definition of unemployment. These are the numbers, Mr. Speaker, that keep me awake at night, and I sincerely hope keep the department awake at night. Households are being financially squeezed by South Africa's unfriendly policies. These are crazy policies and the lack of leadership around those policies that we are seeing in our country. And this is driving business away. Natural events on top of these policies, such as drought, also add to this ecosystem or economic environment. And Speaker, as we speak, the rating agencies again are looking into whether they should downgrade our economy. A downgrade would lead to a weaker rand and higher interest rates. It means residents who are already struggling with will be hard hit with higher prices of most goods. They are under pressure and they're growing more and more frustrated. This frustration is on the rise because we know this country is being run by self-interested forces. This frustration stems in part from the realization that well-connected elite, or the well-connected elite, continues to enrich itself at the expense of the poor and the working class. This is that ecosystem that we must operate in. But Speaker, here in the Western Cape, where you have a government that puts its citizens first, this government that is responsive, this government that is open and accessible. For the past 7 years, our goal has been jobs and growth. And when you look at our job creation record, it is clear that we are on the right track. With this budget, we're building on that foundation, and we're building on our belief that the economy must work for everyone who wants it to work, and of course everyone who wants to invest in it. In the 2016-17 financial year, the Department of Economic Development and Tourism receives 486 million rand to achieve our goal of adding over 300,000 jobs to the economy over the next 5 years. Now I'll take you through our plan of exactly how we're going to make this happen. The best thing a government can do is to create the right environment for businesses to start, to grow, and to create jobs. To do just that, Integrated Economic Development Services receives 40.9 million rand in the 2016-17 financial year. In the past 7 years, this program has given 36,159 entrepreneurs the tools they need to start a business. As a government, we've made it our priority to get rid of the outdated laws that are holding business back. Since its inception in 2001, our red tape reduction unit has assisted over 5,200 businesses with a resolution rate of around 90%. I'd like to share a story with you to illustrate how this is driving businesses in the Western Cape. Since early in 2015, we've been actively lobbying for change to the Home Affairs visa regulations. These regulations are one of the biggest threats facing our economy. And it's strange, this morning when I was looking at the news items, specifically on the tourism websites, again the President comes out saying he's going to make sure he does something about these visa regulations. Year after year we hear the same thing, and day after day people are left behind at airports around the world because of these restrictive regulations. But Speaker, last year a UK investment and consulting firm, Accelerator, established its Cape Town office. In the true nature of business, it soon became clear that they'd have to spend additional time in the city setting up the new office, and they applied for extension to their work visas, with not much time to spare. Our unit stepped in to escalate the matter, and working with Home Affairs officials, ensured that the team received their visas one day before they were set to return to the UK. The cost of returning to Britain to apply for their visas there would have amounted to about 350,000 rand. Their investment stands to create just under 5,000 jobs. Simply put, investment like this, or like these, are powerful economic catalysts, and we need to do everything we can to get more of them. To achieve this, we need to make sure firms like Accelerator continue to view our region as a good place to do business. So over the next 4 years, the Red Tape Unit has set itself a goal of saving businesses in the province 500 million rand. In partnership, Speaker, with Wesgro, the Red Tape Unit will be working to establish the Western Cape Investors Centre, a platform for medium to large investors wanting to set up a shop to expand their current business in the province. And Speaker, that while talking about that kind of interaction, still as we stand here today, if you are a tourist on a visa in this country and you really like what you see, you decide you want to spend some extra time, our system says, get on a plane, go back home, apply for a second visa so you can come back and stay another 2 weeks. It's just crazy. That's the guy that gets you, let alone the one that's been stopped somewhere else in some target market, and specifically out of Africa or a BRIC country. It is shocking, and we still haven't had that change. Speaker, we also have a proactive team in place to hunt for new business, inside and outside of our borders, and to assist interested investors. Through Wesgro, who I see up there, welcome. Through Wesgro, our tourism trade and investment promotion agency, we're aiming to create between 1,800 and 3,740 jobs through investment worth between 3.1 billion and 5.4 billion over the next 3 years. Our efforts to create an enabling environment for business are also set to propel our Project Khulisa growth strategy. Through Project Khulisa, we are focusing on growing specific areas of our economy, namely oil and gas, tourism, and agri-processing. These sectors have the highest potential to dramatically accelerate growth and jobs. I have shared our plan for the agri-processing sector earlier during my agricultural budget speech, but in short, we will focus on growing our share of the halal market, increase wine and brandy exports to strategic markets, and increase local processing capacity through key infrastructure projects. To drive our focus on Project Khulisa sectors and to attract increased investment into our region, the Trade and Sector Development Programme receives 59.5 million rand in the 2016-17 financial year. The transformation of Saldanha Bay into a duty-free zone for rig repair is anchor to our oil and gas programme. And again, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and for those of you that weren't here yesterday, my thanks again goes to this legislature for passing that legislation. So the legislation is now being sent to the Premier for assent. That piece of legislation will allow you now to continue on that road to making sure that Saldanha actually becomes this duty-free zone. Through this, Speaker, we can add up to a further 60,000 formal jobs in our economy if we all work together to realise our vision of becoming the prime base for rig repair on the continent. We already have most of what it takes: high rig traffic, affordable skills, and service sophistication. In partnership, Speaker, with the strategic stakeholders in the national and local government, we are determined to fill the gaps through the completion of the following projects: the development of the Saldanha port and back of port land, the development of strategic marine infrastructure, including a deep water rig repair quay, an offshore supply base, and additional jetty for repair and shipbuilding, bulk services, and most critically, skills. Along with oil and gas, tourism has been identified as another focus area, Madam Speaker. We know that tourism is our fastest growing sector, employing over 200,000 people and generating 17 billion to our economy each year. Through Project Khulisa, we are seeking to add a further 100,000 jobs in this sector. The Tourism, Arts and Entertainment Programme receives 46.5 million rand in the 2016-17 financial year to grow the Western Cape's tourism sector. As a part of the province-wide effort, we have identified a set of exciting projects. One of the most exciting is our Air Access program. Through a dedicated air access team comprised of global aviation specialists, we are targeting the development and initiation of new routes to key strategic markets. This part of our plan is to get more visitors here, and you might have seen, again, as this plan starts to roll out, there are announcements coming. And we've just had the announcement now that we've got 850-odd seats coming out of Gatwick into Cape Town on three flights a week, Gatwick to Cape Town, which is adding to the existing BA 2 flights a day. And as you can see, that's the kind of thing that this team works on. They're working on getting extra flights into Africa, extra flights into new key target markets, and it is really an exciting space to be part of, and thank you very much to the team there. Another crucial part is to keep these visitors here for longer, to boost awareness of the Western Cape in key markets, and to convert business tourists to leisure tourists. We will implement a delegate boosting and convention program targeting conference attendees. To attract more tourists from strategic markets, we will develop and implement an Africa and a Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, growth strategy. We know that we have to be responsive to market trends and demands, and in this respect, we are determined to make technology work for us by tapping into the power of big data to grow our economy. Very shortly, we will launch a tourism data and real-time business intelligence dashboard, which will provide us with the most recent trends and performance of the Western Cape tourism industry. We also have a range of initiatives to boost the attractiveness of the Western Cape. First and foremost, we will continue with our plans to position the province as the trail capital of Africa. In the next few months, we will start to build the first part of our cycle track, which will eventually stretch between Plettenberg Bay and Cape Town. This track will become the backbone of a trail system driving business to farms and communities along the Southern Cape coastline. We will also focus on the culture and heritage tourism. And in this regard, we have something special up our sleeves, and we hope to unveil this later this financial year. We will also continue to drive food and wine tourism and growing our events economy. And mentioning that, we're in the middle of our event season, and as you can see, these events are really, really helping us boost the already great tourism numbers that we have had. First impression, Speaker, for the 2015-16 tourism season have been promising, and I'll be able to table the official visitor numbers for the traditional peak period next month. I'd like to commend every person working in this sector for the warm welcome and excellent service offered to our visitors. You are the reason our tourism sector continues to thrive. Part of Project Khulisa Plan will include a Service Excellence and Tourism Benefits Me campaign, and we will share more on this shortly. Speaker, to ensure our Khulisa sectors and every other economic sector in our economy has the right environment to grow, we are dedicated to the task of getting our key enablers right. In the 2016-17 financial year, our Economic Planning Unit received 215.1 million rand to drive these priorities. We recognize that innovation is a key enabler, and I'm pleased to announce that this year we will be developing an innovation strategic framework. If we are to encourage a spirit of innovation among our residents, we know we must think differently too. Through this process, we are going to plot how we can unlock innovation in government. Speaker, connectivity is also a critical enabler for our economy. Just 2 weeks ago, the Premier and I launched the first 50 of the 384 public Wi-Fi hotspots we are rolling out in partnership with Neotel. In the 2016-17 financial year, a further 100 hotspots will be delivered to the communities across the province. Our public hotspots in Atlantis, the Southern Cape and Delft, which have to date been accessed by 123,000 residents, are showing us the power of connectivity. And Speaker, through accessing the internet at our hotspots, Tobeka Yossi enabled the Facebook page of an international magazine. I'm not sure if Tobeka's here today. Is she there?
In the corner.
There we go, there she is. So she used one of these Wi-Fi hotspots, and I have spoken about this once before in the House. She used this hotspot, and after providing samples of her work, she was hired as a contributor, and to do her work, she Skype calls with the chief editor of the magazine in the Netherlands and emails through her stories. I'm happy to have Tobeka here today. She's an example of how technology connects us to opportunities across the world. And I'm not sure if I'm actually allowed to say it here, but what happens is through this opportunity, she is now going to be launching a South African version of this magazine right here, and she is going to become the editor. And we really, really look forward to that announcement later in the year. We are also entering the final year of the test phase of the ICANN Centre in Elsie's River. This centre provides access to digital training and public internet. And the response from residents has been encouraging. Since October, around 100 new registrations have been achieved at the centre each month. It is our goal to have public access centres like these throughout the Western Cape, and we'll evaluate this project to see how we move it forward. Speaker, another enabler, energy security, has been identified as most important and strategic. For an economy to thrive and attract investment, it must have stable and affordable power. In the Western Cape, we have prioritised the development of clean energy sources. While the national government is signing nuclear deals and building coal power, we are going green. In this regard, we recently submitted and are awaiting the outcome of our application to transform Atlantis into a special economic zone. If approved, this would open up the way for further investment in manufacturing and services in the Atlantis industrial area, resulting in 1,000 direct jobs and over 1 billion rand investment in manufacturing by 2025. And Speaker, this SEZ is not designated yet, but we have already seen over 500 million in direct investment, creating close to 400 direct jobs and a very exciting investor pipeline on the way. Over the last 5 years, investment of over 17 billion rand have been made in renewable energy projects in the Western Cape. 2.5 billion in the last year alone, creating over 2,000 jobs, and another 700 in component manufacture. And of course, that component manufacture is why we're doing the work around the SEZ. Many of these initiatives have been facilitated through the hard work of the team at Green Cape. Our efforts are being bolstered by the City of Cape Town, which has given homeowners the power to receive rebates for the clean energy they produce. Following on the programs we have seen in the city and Drakenstein, work is also already underway to allow large municipalities in the Western Cape to implement similar rebate and embedded generation schemes. We anticipate that the national process for procuring power from liquefied natural gas will be critical to unlock the potential of our economy of having an alternative source of energy, not only for electricity, but for industrial application. This is something the department has been working on for a long time, and it is good to see that we are now suddenly getting traction as well as buy-in at a national level. The province is working intensively with the public sector stakeholders at national level to help realize this opportunity. Speaker, here in the Western Cape, we are producing and selling the energy of the future. We are growing an economy that delivers opportunities for all. At the same time, we need to grow our skills to ensure that they work for the economy. The best place to start is by investing in the youth, in young people. This is why we have selected the skills as a game changer. In the 2016-17 financial year, our Skills Development and Innovation Program received 63.242 million rand. Our drive to boost the number of young skilled people in the province will go beyond government to involve academia and the private sector. A true partnership, as we believe, and it will also show how better together works. We will invest 12.4 million in training young people in technical and vocational skills, and we need partnerships to make this a success. In this regard, we rely on business owners to open their doors to artisans needing to complete their internship phase, and I ask that employers reach out to my office if they are able to assist in this way. People all too often speak about that practical side on the job part of your education, and we really need the partners to do that. This, Speaker, is our roadmap for the year ahead, and it will be executed by Mr. Solly Fourie, the HOD, and his Department of Economic Development, of which we have a number of the senior management here today. I'd like to commend them for their efforts and the important role they continue to play in making the Western Cape the fastest job-creating region in this country. Well done to the team. Solly, and if you'll pass that on to the rest of the team. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Vuvu Njalu and the full team, some of them here, at my office, for also putting up with me and the pressures that I put on them, for helping me enable the most open office and accessible office around. That I don't know how many government officials get told that they have to work until 9 o'clock on the first Thursday of every month, but they do that with a smile, as you can see, because it's about servicing our customers, Madam Speaker. Those customers out there who are in business, who have taken risks to start businesses, those customers out there who are entrepreneurial and want to take a chance, who want to risk their idea. Those are our customers. Those young people, those youth that I speak about, that want to see themselves playing a role in our economy, whether they're the entrepreneur or they're getting a job that can allow them to look after their family and to live the life that they wish. That's why we all do what we do. And I thank each and every one of them for helping me and helping our team achieve just that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. I see the Honourable Schaefer.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it's not often that one can paint a good story in a space clearly surrounded by doom and gloom. Despite the many challenges that South Africa faces with the threat of a downgrade to junk status, I can't help feeling that we have so much more to celebrate here in the Western Cape. It's why the JSE and the recent announcement that Namoru, Asia's global investment bank, will be opening office here in April. Because the DA-led Western Cape, Speaker, is delivering on its mandate to create a vibrant, innovative and sustainable economy, to act as a catalyst and respond to challenges and opportunities. Despite the small budgets this department has to contend with, it must be commended for the enormous responsibility it has to deliver on jobs and growth for this province. Speaker, numbers do not lie. Stats SA, as the official custodian of information, is verified and clearly states that the Western Cape is creating more jobs than any other province. This is evident if you look at the unemployment figures for this province. The Western Cape now, Minister, as we said, has the lowest narrow unemployment rate at 19.4% and an expanded unemployment rate at 22%, compared to Gauteng with 26% narrow and 30.2% expanded. Breaking the 20% unemployment threshold is significant and a tipping point for this province. It is without doubt that the department and the Western Cape government at large continues to create a conducive environment for job creation and economic growth. One of the biggest challenges facing not only the Western Cape but South Africa at large is not just to create wage-related job opportunities, but to increase our skills base and develop what we call a knowledge-based economy. Countries that are striving towards a knowledge economy, those with a solid education system, a dynamic information infrastructure, and an effective innovation space are doing much better than others in the intensely competitive world economy. If the right policies are adopted, the chances of success are extremely high. The digital divide is narrowing and returns on investment in information and communication technologies are extremely positive. Speaker, the way to achieving a knowledge economy is through greater partnership with private and public sectors, more effective use of ICTs, and a stronger commitment to lifelong learning. This, together with an enabling environment conducive to entrepreneurship, is fundamental. With the focus on creating a knowledge-based regional economy, the Western Cape has over the years implemented regulations and policies such as the Red Tape Reduction Unit, which seeks to remove bureaucratic blockages to make it easier and more cost-effective to do business. Programs such as the Premier's Entrepreneurship Recognition Awards, which also involves this department, recognizes top entrepreneurs and established opportunities from various financial resources, such as the funding fair for access to financing. The DA Western Cape and City of Cape Town is seen more and more of a tech hub that is gaining in traction and drawing attention. Today, the World Bank has ranked Cape Town as one of the best cities to start a business in South Africa. There is a reason why 70% of South Africa's venture capital, 50% of South Africa's startups, and 56% of emerging companies are reportedly all based in the Western Cape. It is evident when Cape Town is selected as the location of the new French tech hub, joining international cities such as Moscow, New York, San Francisco, Tel Aviv, and Tokyo to foster the growth of startup companies and to promote innovation. The transformative potential of technology and its ability to improve the lives of everyone on our continent is what should be driving us all. It is evident with the Bandwidth Barn as the oldest tech incubator in Africa and widely regarded as amongst the most successful in the world. But Speaker, the DA-led Western Cape and City of Cape Town did not just arrive at this point. These milestones and achievements are as a result of a number of provincial and local government interventions. Firstly, the effective functioning of the economy through sound governance and strategic focus on key economic sectors, tourism, oil and gas, and agri-processing through Project Kulisa. Secondly, the establishment and success of the Red Tape Reduction Unit, as I mentioned, to reduce the cost and improve the ease of doing business. And we welcome an increase of 37.5% to their budget. And thirdly, the rollout of broadband to communities and businesses, especially within industries which require access to big data. The recent rollout of the 50 of the 384 planned public access Wi-Fi hotspots is welcomed, but the real prize here is the free 250 megabyte data with a top-up cost of only R5 for further 700 megabytes. That's probably South Africa's cheapest data package. The World Bank has shown that a 10% increase in broadband penetration results in a 1.38% increase in GDP. So access to the internet makes e-services more accessible to communities that would otherwise not be able to utilize this new way of service delivery. And lastly, the development of the Provincial Energy Strategy, which provides energy dependency security within this region. Speaker, just yesterday the Standing Committee passed the IDZ LICO legislation that will become an enabler for the IDZ to start its business to operate as a company. We have heard the potential of the sector in the long term, and we as a committee look forward to seeing the Saldanha Bay IDZ flourish and grow. Minister, we welcome your announcement with regards to the Atlantis Special Economic Zone, and we ask what you're going to do about the local contents more specifically, and how we're going to create that more of a green energy hub. Speaking in terms of agri-processing under Colisa, we also look forward to the development of the Halal Park to capture a piece of that multi-billion rand economy. We also note the increased exports of wines to new markets such as China. It is important to note that in 2015, China became South Africa's 6th largest export market for packaged wines by volume, and the largest in the Asian region, accounting for around 8.9 million litres for the year ending September 2015. Through Project Colisa, the DA-led Western Cape aims to double the export of wine to China by 2025. The wine industry is not only important for job creation, it is also employs over 289,000 people in the country and 167,000 residents of the Western Cape. But more importantly, it is a valuable commodity for growing the Western Cape economy. Speaker, tourism is also the Western Cape's fastest growing sector, with over 200,000 people in formal jobs generating 17 billion for our local economy. 1 in 12 jobs is a tourist job, and the importance of this sector is emphasized by the development of some key projects. Firstly, the Standing Committee recently engaged with the Cape Town International Airport. We look forward to the expansion project and the development of the Cape Town Aerotropolis, which will expand opportunities to 20-kilometre radius around the airport. The project will give access to opportunities to some of the most vulnerable communities in the city. The Metro Southeast represents more than 50% of the city's population, but only 3.2% of the city's commercial investment. The Cape Town Aerotropolis can unlock the potential in the area and is a strategy opportunity for the airport and the community for sustained growth. Equally an exciting development is the Swart Clip site, which we heard about, an undeveloped site of land that is situated in the flight path of the planned new runway. The site is in process of being taken over by AXA for the sake of mixed development, situated between Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain. The Swart Clip site will accommodate a new college intended to accommodate up to 10,000 students studying artisan skills. These students will be trained in artisanal skills so desperately needed by the private sector. Their skills will match the needs of the Cape Town Aerotropolis. This is integration in practice, where the connective power of the airport is being used to transform the hinterland urban areas into an aerotropolis. The recent launch, Speaker, of the Cape Town Air Access Initiative, as the Minister has mentioned, is also another project in the tourism space. This collaboration between the Western Cape Government, the City of Cape Town, AXA, Westgrow and airline industries to expand air routes to Cape Town and greater air access into Africa. Boosting air access is key to the Western Cape's growth strategy and sits front and centre with Colisa's focus into tourism and agri-processing. Speaker, on a final note, I'd like to thank my committee for their commitment to oversight. Under the leadership of Minister Winde, I also want to thank Mr. Salifari and his team for making miracles with small budgets, for engaging with us on a regular basis and perfecting Economics 101. To our entities, Westgrow and Saldanha IDZ, we look forward to witnessing foreign direct investment flowing into this province to growing and expanding the economy. In conclusion, Speaker, the DA supports Vote 12, the Western Cape Appropriation Bill for the Department of Economic Opportunities and Tourism. I thank you.
Thank you. I see the Honourable Chacha.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It is common knowledge that South Africa, as is the case of the world currently, we are going through economic difficulties. The President, together with the Minister of Finance, has not hidden the fact that South Africa will face economic difficulties a year ahead as a result of global economic crisis. In fact, while we are still grappling with stabilizing the economy through various growth initiatives, some developing countries have already collapsed or are on the brink of bankruptcy or collapsing. In spite of the financial crisis and the global recession post-2008, South Africa fared relatively well. Although the economy is not growing at the pace which we would have projected it to grow, we have not seen a negative growth. The current annual growth rate of 1% as a result is part of the results of prudent fiscal efforts on the part of government to ensure that we survive the current economic climate. In this year's budget, we have seen an increase, even though our economic climate is exacerbated by drought, El Nino, but we have seen growth in any case from the allocation from the national government. I make this point because I know that my colleagues from the other benches opposite me will want to ignore the continuous sharp fall of global crisis, mineral prices, which has had a severe effect on our ability to export as a country, and in return, it affected our GDP. Interestingly, the department has acknowledged that major obstacle to the integrated service delivery as one of the problems that we're having, where we have various departments, we have municipalities, we have also agencies that are not coordinating their work, where one department is doing that, another department in some municipality, they are doing similar jobs but differently, and they are not communicating. And we have seen here, for instance, in this legislature, that continuously we have seen blame going to the national government. Whilst we're saying that it is important that we must have a cooperative governance in all the spheres of government. Hence, I think we have gone very well to deal with the issue of the IDZ bill, which went very quickly because there was a concerted effort of coordination. This is what we are saying ministers should be happening. With this, Minister, we cannot be complacent about the effect of the current economic climate has on the poor majority of this country. As we were reminded by the Minister of Finance, not the MEC, speech, that all of us want jobs, thriving business. You must engage professionals, narrowing inequality,
Order, please.
and alleviating poverty. Close quote. This requires an inclusive social compact to drive maximum activity in the economy. It requires that we have a government which provides a catalyst for transformation, redressing the past imbalances and deconstructing the racial economy. This therefore means that transformation and redress must be the core business and central part of our work as government if we are to deal with the triple crisis of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. This cannot be by the way program, but however it should be driven through government, micro and macro economic policies. This is what the NDP speak to, which I know the MEC sometimes speaks to the NDP, sometimes he has problems with the NDP, but we hope that in future he will be consistent because the NDP give us direction, all of us. We note that this comes as a result of... We also acknowledge that the jobs growth in the last years. We also acknowledge that the unemployment in the province has also continued to decrease. But we must note that this comes as a result of a national drive and commitment to create jobs and emphasis that has been placed on the creation of real work opportunities. Hence, we must applaud provinces such also as Free State province, which has decreased their expanded unemployment rate. And we must also applaud municipalities such as Mangaung, Metro, having had the highest job growth in all municipalities in the country. I normally decided to use what we do. You also go and compare with other provinces. These are the real indicators that IPEP, as well as the new growth path through the programs such as Pakisa, are showing real jobs and real job opportunities. We must, however, point out the claim that the regional growth of the Western Cape in recent times exceeded that of the South African GDP. It's always, that is misleading, because the regional growth of Western Cape has always exceeded national growth. When you look at the region vis-a-vis national growth, you can look through it, even the last 12 years, look at the patterns of growth. The Western Cape it's not because DA has done something dramatic that has changed the course of economic growth of this province. Economic priorities ought to be radical economic transformation, inclusive, rapid growth, and equitable job creation, which means that the department and the ministry, and hopefully the ministry will also go and lobby in his party, that they need to look at the radical economic transformation, so that also it's not an issue that they must only deal with it because the NDP talks to it, but they must see it as an important industrialization that will help our economy, that will help the people of this province out of the current poverty. The budget before us today speaks to the capping of on compensation of employees, a little over 110 million for the upper level. Meanwhile, the department has informed us that they in fact actually wanted, as part of restructuring their organogram structure, to have a wage bill which is about 133 million. This immediately gives us an indication that the restructuring would have actually cost far more in terms of wage bill if physical discipline was not forced on the department. We are informed that the number of vacancies, especially the senior management level, is a direct result of the budget cuts. But interestingly, these vacancies were even there in the previous financial year without the capping of upper wage limits. So why is the issue of the austerity measures is used as an excuse of not filling the vacancies? It is an excuse. We are also not convinced that the so-called reprioritization through shifting funds from enterprise development to ease of economy will really have real economic spin-off, especially when we are not yet presented with the report from the committee that talks to how the red tape reduction has actually assisted small and big businesses. Because at the moment, it seems the focus is on the big business, those who are coming from outside. What about the small business? You know, that's the problem that we're not getting, how the red tape reduction is actually assisting those small ones. You know, also in this vote, there's quite a lot of increase that has taken, even from the consultants. We have a large increase about consultancy work that needs to be done. And the department is either saying it's because of the halal park that is coming, so they need more of the consultants. But what I think is important, what we have not received, is the nature and the scope of the halal park and what basically these consultants will be busy with, which cannot be done in-house. Because we're also careful that we must not increase funds because we just want to spare funds for election. You know, because we know that in the past has happened. You know.
Honourable Chacha, please take your seat, Minister. You're rising on a point of order.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the honourable member if he can indicate to me in the line item budget, where is the budget for the election? I have the budget in front of me. I would like to see where is the line item for elections.
Thank you. Minister, if I can guide you, you should ask if the member would like to take a question, and then I'll put it to him. Thank you. Sir.
He will take a question. This one.
I apologize, Honourable Speaker. Is the honourable member my friend?
Thank you, Minister. Take your seat. Honourable Chacham, will you take a question?
Yes, the member can SMS me the question.
Okay. Minister, the member will not take a question. You may proceed, Honourable Chacha.
Speaker, in the most bizarre revelations, the Provincial Treasury told us Westcro spent 8.1 million on their website. I'm coming to you now. I hope your question was related to that. Westcro, on the other hand, state that they actually spent 144,000 on their website. And unfortunately, Westcro blames the junior employee for giving Treasury wrong information. You know, what an embarrassment from the Treasury Department, because there are quarterly reports that take place. Why couldn't the Treasury Department pick up that there's wrong information, which is also not captured in the APP that is being submitted? You know? Yeah, that's the election money. So clearly, the credibility of reports that we get from Treasury quarterly is questionable. You know, it's questionable because ngokucacileyo apha bahlali sikhokhelwa ziimfama apha ezihoye izisu zazo. Nantsi ingxaki esinayo apha. Westcro confirmed 3 million underspending for this financial year, and these funds will be rolled over for the next financial year. The apparent 3 million is due to the funds which were allocated to the city of Cape Town. And Westcro further spends 3 million on events in the city of Cape Town, and further, Westcross spends and the department more money in the city of Cape Town, particularly as part of the tourism budget. But the issue, why are we at this stage not having a plan to integrate even the rural areas to benefit to this budget? It can't be that only the city of Cape Town is the only tourist attraction because of Table Mountain. There are many other areas, and we have not received a clear plan, either from Westcross or the department in relation to the tourist industry in other parts of the Western Cape. You know, AXA, the AXA project has shown an increase in tourism intake, despite the MEC shouting on us the whole of 2015 about the visa regulation, which already today also started that. But as that visa will be negative, we won't get tourism, we won't increase tourism. The fact of the matter, we have received a report from AXA that says tourism has increased 3 times. Has increased 3 times in their report. So the issue, maybe I don't know, maybe the MEC will tell us that, that the part of the campaigning that he was doing for the Western Cape and the country, he wanted to increase tourism. He must tell us, because he was running a campaign international that we have a visa problem, we are not going to get, and yet we have increased.
Order, please.
The performance of the tourism industry, the performance of the tourism industry, although welcome, still does not have real benefits for workers in that industry, of whom significant number of which are illegal immigrants who continue to be exploited by the sector terribly with their low wages because of their compromised legal status. This is not addressed also by the department, and we have raised it that
Honourable Chair, sorry to cut your word. Will you take your seat? Are you raising on a point of order? No? Sorry, thank you. Sorry, you may proceed. He's leaving.
We must also state that the current budget cuts cannot be an excuse for the fact that the department almost has no top management, Minister, with about 18 vacancies in the department. So why are we not filling those vacancies? You know? And also Westcross, we have lots of vacancies in Westcross, about 20 vacancies. What is the problem? Because the issue of austerity does not affect, it does not come here. These vacancies were there for some time. Hence, we must be saying, Speaker, that these supposed to have been filled in order for the department to work in its full capacity than it is today. Budget, as presented by the Department of Economic and Development, does not present us with a coherent plan on transforming the economy of the Western Cape. Given the current economic climate, the budget allocation in this budget do not maximize fiscal discipline through innovation, but rather makes excuses of non-delivery as a result of budget cuts. And I can also, Member Maseko can agree with me that, that this budget, we cannot support this budget because it does not cater for her beloved place, Cedarburg, you know, and the Cedarburg people are not catered in the Saldanha, the IGZ. I'm sure will agree with me on that one. Therefore, as ANC, we can't agree on this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I see the Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for those taking part in the debate. Luckily, I've only got two more members to answer to. First of all, to the Chairperson of the Standing Committee, thank you very much for the role you play, for your oversight. And I think one of the questions as raised by the Honourable Chacham has actually come out through that oversight. Because I remember when you had the session with Treasury, it came up about the question of the spending and the reporting from Wesco through the QPRs, and that's exactly what oversight is supposed to be for. And we could see that there was a mistake made. And I think the Honourable Member mentioned it, but he actually gave the answers at the same time. So the 8 million, then he said 144,000 for the website, so it wasn't actually for the website. Well, portion was, it was actually on events, and he said exactly the same thing. So it shows you that the oversight works, and thank you very much for that role that the committee plays. In your speech, you spoke about a few things, and I'll just comment on one or two of them. The first being the JSE opening an office here, and I think that's really encouraging because it shows that when a stock exchange looks at a market, specifically a regional market, and says we need to open an office, and the reason that they're doing that is because their customers are here. And that's good news. But there's I don't know if you know this, but there are 2 more applications for stock exchanges in Cape Town at the moment. They've made applications to start stock exchanges. So it obviously shows you that something is happening in the ecosystem at the moment. And because you also spoke about the knowledge-based economy, and we've spoken about it in the House before, how that economic hub of South Africa at the moment, we spoke about the JSE moving, the economic hub of South Africa, and now suddenly, at a 14% of South Africa's economy, the Cape region, now suddenly, and 35% of South Africa's economy, Gauteng, and you're starting to see shifts between the one and the other. And it's because of the makeup of that economy, and that's what you speak about. It's because of the backbone of that economy not being a resource-based, looking at mining as what holds that economy together. Here it's got the diversity of the trade, the tourism, the connectedness through what the government's investing, but also what the private sector's doing. You mentioned the broadband cost. I mean, I think that's exactly what we set out to do, not only to connect, but also to drive competitiveness. And in our own way, through the deal that was struck with Neotel, we bring in the cheapest broadband in South Africa. Suddenly, you start changing the competitiveness of the region, and you're going to see the other players now starting to affect their pricing, looking at how, and we all know that up until now, the sort of so-called monopoly in the data space, specifically around the cell phone providers, they've actually held those prices as some of the highest in the world. And suddenly you're going to see through this kind of intervention the pressure being put on that competitiveness, which will make the area again a place that people want to invest in, and that ecosystem starts to change again. It's the place that people want to come to take that risk, to take that chance, to open their business, to create that job, or to come and get that job. You spoke about the barn, and you praised them and the work that they've done, and they really have done groundbreaking work, and especially now seeing that extension out into Khayelitsha and what that's doing. It is a very exciting place to be in, and it's really exciting to watch. It's also, again, about driving and creating that ecosystem. The SEZ, you asked me a question on the SEZ and local content, and it is a subject that we are challenged with all the time. In my discussions at a MINMEC level, but also through the HOD and his team, the discussions through the department at DTI and economic development. We've gone through a process in South Africa around the green tech space where, I've mentioned 22 billion rands worth of green tech companies providing either wind or solar power into our grid system through a refit program. In the round 4, we started to see the application for local content. Now, that's the SEZ application. Let's create that tax-free zone so that local content can come about. But this is where there's a bit of a conundrum, because those companies that have got those tenders, the 22 billion rand, those companies that are already out there, we need to make sure that they are going to get that local content, that they're going to, and the risk at the moment, and there is a risk, and this House needs to know it, this side of the House needs to know it, so that the same thing, when you're talking to some of your colleagues in the ANC at national government level around this specific space, we must be very careful that these companies don't opt for a fine and still import those goods. We must not allow that. We must make sure that they actually adhere to their local content. When they put that tender in and won the tender, they said they were going to manufacture a certain percentage locally. We need to hold them to that, because that's the only way that we're going to get a success. But also, we obviously have to follow through and get that designation so that we do get that green tech hub. And we all need to work together on making that happen, because it is a risk in the system at the moment. You also mentioned the Aerotropolis, and I thought I'll just say one or two things about that. I think that's a very exciting program, obviously not directly involved from a provincial government point of view, but we will help where we can, as the city will too, and the work that they've done and the work that we do with AXA and the team at the airport, just receiving that accolade again as the best airport in Africa. And it's really exciting to work with them. They're very proactive. It links in very strongly with our air access program, because that's where they're going to land. And they've got to continually invest 11 billion rand as part of this process going into the runway realignment. And of course, part of that realignment is that Swartklip property. It's an offset, it's a green lung, but it's also opportunity not for residential. So unfortunately, Minister Madikizela, you can't use that. But it's the flight path, so we can put skill centres in. You spoke about the skill centre. There's other opportunities in that space. I think about film. I think there's opportunities for film. We know that we've got film studios knocking on our doors for a second film studio. That's also an option in that region. So thank you very much for the role that you play there. The Honourable Chacham, again, I didn't write the same as I did as to the last speech, but I wrote here you need to look at your speechwriter, or perhaps you need to spend a bit more time in the standing committee, because many of the questions that you raise are actually dealt with in there, specifically around the restructuring. You need to ask that question. When was the restructuring of the department agreed to? When was it passed in cabinet? I mean, we're now sitting at a space where we're now feeling once it's agreed to, it's a process. And of course, the budget process countersects that, and you're asking the right questions, and we will give those answers as they come through in the standing committee, but that's exactly what's happened. The budget was allocated, the approval of the structure, it's the last department to receive the modernisation, but of course, as that process went through, we approved it in cabinet. Guess what happened after that? And this contradicts you said you're seeing enough growth and you're seeing enough money in the budget. But we're 1.5 billion rand down. We had to find 1.5 billion cut in our budget over the next 3 years. So this is tough. These are tough processes that the departments have been through in November and again in the beginning of this year. And the Minister of Finance has been talking about that for the last few months, both at a provincial level and at a national level. So we don't have more money, we have less money. And why do we have that? Because we have less tax. And why do we have less tax? Not because of the result of the ongoing global economic crisis. That's fudging it. As a direct result of ANC policy or lack of clarity and bumbling of a president. No leadership whatsoever of a president in our system. That's what causes the reduction in tax income. That's what gets the rating agents sniffing around this place. All of those things are factors, but I'll tell you what, you have strong political leadership who knows what they're doing, you have a very different environment. When you have a political president and leader, when you have a president who bumbles along, who makes ridiculous decisions and choices, the market has to hold him to account, but the market also punishes the poorest of the poor in this country through that process when we have a president who makes such silly, stupid decisions. I want to also say to the Honourable Chacham, I'm really glad that you mentioned the NDP. It's probably the first time in the last year that I've heard the ANC on that side of the House mention the NDP. Normally, you don't mention it at all. And quite frankly, at a national level, I mean, the NDP is a forgotten, dusty document somewhere, stuck away somewhere else. No one really ever cares a damn about it. And that is also part of this uncertainty. It's part of this uncertainty is where we have a national government who does not have a single plan. They've got a whole lot of dusty plans, and they don't stick to one. I do want to say to the Honourable Chacham that I was really excited and I really liked the new approach of using ANC examples of good governance or ANC examples of where things are going right, because that's what we've been missing for years. You know, every time we stand up, we talk about the good stuff and you've got nothing to talk about. So now suddenly you were starting to mention, you mentioned Free State and Mangaung, and sure, you're coming off a low base, but at least you're starting to say in this discourse of debate that this is what we do as a government. This is what we do as the ANC where we govern. I'm really excited that you're starting to bring that, because that's what we need. That's what we need. I must just say that please, next time you come, won't you tell us about how the ANC are sorting out the water issues and the electricity issues in Kanaland, or perhaps tell us how you did when you governed Oudtshoorn, or what happens around tender processes in Beaufort West. But at least now we're getting to a space that we can start to use,
Order, please, members.
We're starting to get into a space in this debate where we can start to use policy against policy, governance against governance. We can really start to get this debate going. So Honourable Chacham, I really thank you for bringing that to the table. I think I look forward to the next round of debates as we start to bring more of delivery and service delivery, which really counts to the people, of where we govern and how we make the difference. That brings me to the next point, and how you say that the Western Cape always outperforms the national economy, and that is true. It always does outperform the national economy. But, and anybody can answer this question in the department, or whether it was the guys that helped us with Kulisa or Pakisa or any of those programs, those people that were helping us, I said exactly the same thing. I said, guys, that's not good enough. I don't want to just be 1 or 2% better than the national economy. I want to see liftoff. I want to see that happening. I don't want to see the railway line. And that's exactly why we've got programs that we've got, why we do what we do, because that's exactly what we are hoping to achieve, is that separation, so we get that growth. We're seeing it in the Business Confidence Index, where the Business Confidence Index in South Africa, including the Western Cape numbers, keeps on going down, but you take the Western Cape numbers out and it goes up. That's what we need to see, and over time you will see through our policies, you will see that lift-off happening. Can I also then say that perhaps I don't want to go for too long on this, that you did make mention that all we do is support big business. Our economy is actually an SMME-based economy, and you must be careful when you do bring this in, unless you're also bringing it in as this ANC-DA kind of policy space. Because then let's talk about the Gupta business, because I think that's quite a big business that is supported by the ANC. So I'm not sure whether it's only in this province or nationally that do we support big business or don't we support big business. Are you dealing with the issue? I'm very glad to hear that you're dealing. I'm very glad to hear that you're dealing with that issue. You also mentioned that funds were made available in this process for the election. Now, of course, I must say again, we've got ANC ways of doing things and DA ways of doing things, and I can assure you in this government, through our policies and the way we budget and the way we run our business in an open, transparent, accountable government, no money, no taxpayers' money in this government goes to an election campaign. I'm not sure if that's how you do it on that side of the House, but don't read into these things.
Minister, can you take your seat? Minister Madikizela.
Madam Speaker, I just want to find out if the Minister can take a question.
Minister, will you take a question? Yes, the Minister will take a question.
You will. Minister, I hear this thing about...
Order, please. There's a speaker on the floor.
Minister, I hear this thing about Gupta's also giving money to the DA. can I just find out, did they buy any influence from the Western Cape government by donating that money?
Thank you very much
Order.
for that question. I know that I wasn't involved in any money or any visits or any fundraising from the Guptas, and I know that there's absolutely no influence bought in this government from the Guptas. In actual fact,
Order. Members, order. The Minister is trying to respond to a question, if you will allow him the opportunity.
in actual
you.
fact, Madam Speaker, that goes to the same point of how the question is asked in a budget debate of whether this line item goes to an election campaign or whether this line item goes to anybody connected to the elite. And I can assure you that that might be the case on that side of the House, and we do know that that's how it is run at a national level. We know how this elite links in government expenditure, budgets, appointment of ministers, the whole network of rotten to the core, and that speaks to the original point about how we
Order, please, Honourable Davids.
about how we project ourselves to the world in the economy and from leadership, specifically from our president. And it is absolutely rotten to the core through the whole processes, whether it's linked into government budgets. But I can assure you that in this government, that does not happen. We have a clean, accountable, open, transparent government that is here for the people of this province. Madam Speaker, I don't want to take too much more time, but I've got three more.
Order, please, members.
I've got three more issues that I need to answer to.
Minister, can you take your seat, please? Members, you can engage each other at lunchtime on these issues. Please allow the Minister to speak. Thank you. I'm appealing to both sides of the House for quiet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've got three more questions that were raised by the Honourable Chacham that I need to give answers to. I started to talk about the Westgrow issue that was raised through the QPRs, 144,000 events. And obviously, that reporting we need to fix, number one, but we also need to, and through the oversight, and I've already engaged with the chairperson on it, we need to find out how that happens so that we make sure those kind of things don't ever happen again because of being open, transparent as a government. The honourable member spoke about visas and saying that we've got outstanding tourism numbers, and we have got outstanding tourism numbers. But can you imagine what those numbers would have been like if our friends in Africa could have come and spent more time here or come and done business here? If our friends in India and China and Brazil and Russia could have got here easier? Because we are trying to open up new markets. We are trying to develop into new markets. Can you imagine if it was easier? But we get absolute denial from this member in his speech. And I need to say to him tonight, it's not a question to him directly, Madam Speaker, but tonight when he goes home, I want him to think about, and perhaps even go and Google and read some of the statements from Minister Hanekom. Yeah. Or perhaps find out about the report of Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa and why the President asked him to set up a special committee to investigate and actually go between Hanekom and Gigaba on the visas, and why there was a report on the visas that said there has to have stuff done, and why the President this morning says he will again, this is a year later, but today on the websites of the tourism industry, the President says, I confirm that I will deal with this visa problem. It is a problem, and can you imagine how many more jobs we would create if we sorted out this blockage, this red tape? It is a shocking state of affairs, and the lethargy from the ANC on this is pathetic. And my last point, Madam Speaker, and again, as I started, I said the honourable member needs to spend more time in the committee reading the reports or change his speechwriter, because if he goes into those reports, he will see, he makes the statement that the Westgrow and the department only support events in the city. Now, of the events that we support 7 in the city. We support 30 outside of the city in the regions. 80% of West Coast support goes into the regions. So he mustn't come here and make these rash statements about where we support and how we support. We support across this province. This is a provincial government, and the member needs to go and read the reports and engage with the documentation, or change his speechwriter. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. That, honourable members, concludes the debate on this vote. Proceed.